An exciting new update for the family, for your kids who are playing The Sims. The Sims 4 update adds top surgery scars, binders, hearing aids, and more. It's an exciting addition for transgender and disabled fans. And my initial response is really, I honestly don't care. Like, you can put dragons or whatever you want in these games. I don't care if you're doing a female who surgically removed her breasts, or a male who hormonally grew breasts, or an androgynous individual that you can't tell. I don't know. A lot of people, I guess, are talking about this and they're upset about it or something. But my attitude, honestly, is like, literally don't care. I will say it's what I want to point out with this story, why I'm talking about it, is that there clearly is a religion, some kind of non-theistic religion that results in things like this happening. Because I got to be honest, there's not really enough trans people to warrant a market share drive for why they would do this. There's not a large enough market share drive, even among leftists, to do this. That is to say, as a business seeking to increase your revenue streams, there is no reason to invest the money on this. Perhaps they're hoping to generate press. I don't know. But whatever. Honestly, don't really care. I do have a video I want to show you that makes the argument as to why they shouldn't, which is interesting. A trans person argues that there's very few trans people anyway, so why is everybody mad? And it's like, okay, well, that actually makes the inverse point. But first, let me give you the update news. The Sims 4 has released a free update that adds top surgery scars, binders, and shapewear, and medical wearables to the base game. It's a great step forward for the game's inclusivity that has disabled and transgender fans rejoicing. Added in today's new patch, Sims 4 Create a Sim character creator now offers a top surgery scar found in the body category's new body scars subcategory. Players can add the top surgery scar to any male Sims aged teen or older. Teen? For real? So you're talking about 13-year-olds with top surgery scars? You see where they're going with this. Regardless of if their base body model is masculine or feminine. Top surgery scars indicate the person has undergone surgery to remove their breasts. They're normalizing it. So look, I'll put it this way. That I do take issue with. If a company wants to roll this stuff out, I kind of roll my eyes. If you're trying to influence children, that's where things get worrying. And this is why I talk about why we have to fight the culture war as often as I do. Why I want a physical location to sell coffee and play videos. Become a member at timcast.com. I'll tell you why. Here's what we're doing. It's not just about what you get from the members only section. It's that we're opening a coffee shop. When you walk in, there's going to be TVs and they're going to be playing videos like this. They're going to be playing shows like Crowder. They're going to be playing Ben Shapiro and other people like that, Viva and Barnes, so that regular people get exposed to this sector of culture and the culture war. The reason they're doing this, I think, is that they are they're ideological zealots and they are religious. There's not a large enough market share to warrant doing things like this. So let me show you this video. I don't know how old this video is. It may be very old, but it's making the rounds now. It's got 240,000 views, 600,000 impressions. Let me play this clip for you. Oh, I always have the audio wrong. I got to set the audio properly. Apologies.
For good reason. There are good men and there are predatory men. We should not allow trans into female spaces.
So you're classing trans women as
There are good trans and there are predatory trans, and that's a fact. Women have to be safe. Women and children have to be safe.
So, for example, a transgender woman who has lived as a woman for many years, who may have had surgery, for example, to all intents, as far as anyone considers herself a woman and looks like a woman, she shouldn't be allowed in a women's only space. Is that what
How do you know? There's nothing on their head to say whether they're predatory or not. The same as a man. How do you know by looking at a man if he's predatory or not?
Would you say that about...
I want to pause and say, actually, that's a really bad argument. You can't just be like, we're banning all men from public spaces because some are predatory or not. But it is a fair point that she's saying women's only spaces that exist for women, because you can't tell if someone's predatory or not, you don't let men come in there. So that I do understand.
A lesbian, for instance, a predatory lesbian, and you would want to check their history. Because what you've just said there, effectively, is that trans women are men and should be treated as men.
Well, in my opinion, they still are men.
So I would go in a male jail, looking as I do, and just take my chances. And what, that would be my fault for looking like this?
Well,
I just want to point out in that regard too. Yeah, there are 5'3" effeminate men who have been going to male prisons since prisons existed. Why? What do we do about that? Perhaps the simple solution is, well, I think we need prison reform, but maybe trans prisons or something like that.
In my opinion, you can't change sex. That's my opinion. You can't change sex. You can live your life how you like, and I wish you no harm. But you can't biologically change sex.
You know, I'm biological. I'm a woman. I didn't choose to be trans. This is how I was born. All I've done is align my body with how I feel, so I have a reasonable life. And most trans people, as I say, there's hardly any of us around anyway. We lead normal lives. You're actually talking about 4 trans prisoners in a female...
And she says there's hardly any of us around anyway. Okay. Then why this update to a major video game franchise? Who does this cater to? Very, very, very few people. So again, I don't care if a company wants to do it. I do care if, we're in the culture war and they're trying to influence children with these ideas and, get more people to surgically modify their bodies in ways that many may actually come to regret. That's scary. Not all, but that's the disconcerting thing. The important thing to point out here is this is for religious reasons. And it is a religion. I don't care what the left wants to say and argue. They're lying. It is a non-theistic religion. It is a cult. And it's causing people to sterilize their kids and cause physical harm to themselves.
There's hardly any of you around. Why do I have to change?
Why do what, sorry?
Why does society have to change?
Because we're a civilized society, and you do change. I could have heard this conversation in the 1970s about black people, or in the 1980s about gay people.
Hear the booze. There's a big difference between talking about, billions of people around the world and what you said is a very small group of people. Now, that being said, ultimately my point here is that as a business decision, no. As an ideological decision, yes, that's why they're doing it. Now, I think as to the reason I wanted to highlight that video clip as it's going around is because that trans woman actually made the point that there's very, very few trans people. And that kind of exemplifies what I'm talking about. Now, as for her statement about if this was the 1970s, we could talk about black people or whatever. It's like, it's not a one-for-one argument. We're talking about quite literally massive communities of people. If you're making the argument that there's very few people, so society should change for very few people, look, morality is not black and white. And I've talked about this with the Parental Rights and Education Bill. When should the government have the right to determine that a parent is being abusive? If a parent is saying, I don't want to give my kid the vaccine, can the government say, well, now you're being abusive, so we're coming in? Well, of course not. The parents have the choice. What if the school is trying to, give trans ideology to these kids, resulting in them, them being affirmed or whatever by the school? Can the government say that's abuse? When does the government get to say it is or isn't? The reality is it's based on your subjective morals, what we think is appropriate. You and I would probably argue it's inappropriate for schools to tell kids that they're the opposite gender. The left argues the inverse. My point is, morality is not one for one. That is to say, when it comes to arguments about constitutional rights, we want to afford them to everybody. But with the issue of this trans woman and the argument here, we are not talking about universal rights because you have those. If you're a trans person and you want to go eat somewhere, they can't bar you. Okay? We agree on that. However, when we're talking about placing a male in a female prison, now you're talking about infringing someone else's rights. That's the question. Should females be in the same prison as males, regardless of trans status? For the most part, we say no, and that's to protect the rights of the females. But that also means there are interesting questions that come up with this. And that's why I'm like, I don't think the solution is to put a trans woman in a male prison. But we got to figure something out. And maybe the issue is the prison system doesn't work as it is. So figure something else out. And maybe it's also, look, if you commit crimes, it doesn't matter how you think or how you feel. We are removing you from society because you are a danger to it. Now, if there's an individual who is trans, knowing the rules, don't commit the crimes. Nobody wants to go to prison. No prison is safe. A woman isn't safe in a women's prison. A man's not safe in a men's prison. Now, you can argue that trans people are less safe than non-trans people, but the argument is still, don't commit the crimes and don't go to prison. Sometimes innocent people go to prison. I get it. That's an issue. But I don't know. I'll leave it there. Let me just put it this way. The disconcerting thing with this update to The Sims is that it is the expansion of the cult. I don't care what they do and who they pander to, but we need to make sure we're pushing back culturally and building cultural things. So if you want to help us, you can become a member at timcast.com. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up in just a few minutes. Stick around and I'll see you all shortly.